discover the incredible and heartwarming life of a Victorian baker, hidden struggles exposed. In the small town of Rosewood, Clara Thompson woke before dawn each day, the silvery light painting the cobblestone streets. The bakery, a familiar sanctuary filled with the warm scent of bread, was her haven. Clara's deft hands danced through flour and yeast, kneading dough into life. People lined up, their sleepy faces brightening at the sight of her golden loaves and pastries that seemed to whisper love and comfort. But behind her bright smile lay a weight heavier than the sacks of flour she carried. Her father's illness had left a burden of debt that clawed at her every thought. As she shaped each roll, all she could feel was the tightening in her chest, the worry that those warm treats wouldn't be enough to save the legacy built by her family. Each morning, she expected the familiar faces of neighbors, but she feared the day they might turn away. "Clara, you're keeping the bakery alive," said Mrs. Jenkins, her wrinkled hands clutching a freshly baked baguette. Clara nodded, her heart swelling with pride yet aching with burden. The unity in Rosewood was a beacon, folks gathered, sharing coffee and laughter beneath the bakery's eaves. But then there was Thomas, her estranged brother. His ideas echoed in her mind like a bell: sell the bakery, escape the debt, start anew. To Clara, that felt like inviting despair into their home, a betrayal of the love infused in every loaf. As winter crept in with a biting chill, the storm raged one fateful night. Rain fell like the town had never seen, flooding homes and roads. Clara's heart raced at the thought of neighbors in distress. Without hesitation, she threw open the bakery doors wide. The warmth embraced the cold, creating an impromptu shelter for those displaced. Families huddled together, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. Clara felt hope's spark ignite within her, igniting a will to fight, to stand firm for her father's dreams, her own. Yet, just as the bread dough rose with the warmth of the oven, so too did unwelcome news. A wealthy newcomer approached, a man with plans to buy Clara's bakery, transforming it into a sleek restaurant. Her heart dropped. What would her father think? Could she let it go? Additional debt loomed, a weight harder than flour sacks. Torn between losing everything she loved and the potential relief from burdens, Clara's anxiety surged, battling the fierce need to protect her family's legacy. At that moment, a glimmer of hope arrived as she received a letter from an old friend, calling for a town hall meeting to defend local businesses, to save the essence of Rosewood. Clara felt urgency twist her stomach. Should she stand tall for her father's legacy or give in to the daunting weight of her brother's words? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clara stood in her bakery, looking around at the flour dust dancing in the sunlight, feeling the essence of her family's legacy wrap around her like a warm embrace. It was a time for courage, a moment to unite the town against the forces threatening to erase all she held dear. Could she rally the community to fight alongside her, reigniting hope and pride for all that Rosewood had built together? Would the bakery remain a cherished part of their lives, or would she be forced to choose a fate that could tear her family apart forever? The answer lay ahead, but her heart raced with the choices yet to come. As dawn broke over Rosewood, Clara took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of freshly baked bread that comforted her like an old friend. But today felt different. There was a tense energy hanging in the air, a sense of anticipation that tugged at her heart. The town hall meeting loomed like a storm cloud, a pivotal moment that could either lead to salvation or destruction. Clara's heart raced as she worked, her hands shaping dough but her mind racing ahead to the faces she might see at the meeting. Would the townsfolk rally behind her cause? Would they understand how important the bakery was, not just to her but to the whole community? Each knead of the dough echoed the struggle within her. She could almost hear the voices of her father and brother debating in her mind. "You need to let go, Clara," Thomas had said, voice icy and pragmatic. "This isn't working." But she wasn't ready to give in. The warmth of the bakery was more than warmth, it was history, love, and a treasure of memories baked into every loaf. As customers trickled in, Clara smiled and served them. She noticed Mrs. Jenkins whispering to Mr. Thompson, their brows knitted in concern. Furtive glances exchanged between regulars spoke volumes. News travels fast in a tight-knit community, and Clara could feel the undercurrents of worry dragging against her cheerful front. "Clara," Mrs. Jenkins said, stepping up to the counter, "are you going to the meeting tonight? We'll need someone to speak up for us." Her warm, wrinkled hands trembled slightly around her coffee cup, revealing the frailty underneath her steadfast spirit. Clara's stomach twisted. I'm still deciding," she managed. What if no one showed up? What if the town she had spent her whole life serving turned away? Each uncertainty felt like a blade slicing through her resolve. At that moment, the door swung open with a determined creak. A tall figure stepped in, and Clara's breath caught. It was Thomas, her estranged brother. As he entered the warmth of the bakery, it felt like winter had torn through her heart. His presence stirred memories and emotions, swirling within her like a tempest. "Clara!" he called out, his voice thick with a mix of defiance and hope. "I've been thinking if you're serious about saving this place, then we have to do it together." Her heart raced with conflicting emotions. Could she trust him? Could she depend on the sibling who had turned his back on their family? But the earnest look in his eyes made her hesitate. Maybe this was the lifeline she needed, but could she open that door again after all they'd been through? "I don't know, Thomas." "You walked away," Clara said quietly, the pain etched in her voice. His jaw tightened, yet a flicker of remorse flashed across his face. "I made mistakes, but this is bigger than just us. It's about Rosewood." They stood silently in that moment, a world of unsaid words hovering between them. Her brother's plea stirred something deep within her, a shared desire to protect what was rightfully theirs. The chime of the bakery bell pulled Clara back, the patrons oblivious to the storm of emotions. She took a step closer to Thomas, her heart pounding like a bell tolling. Was this the rekindling of family she'd been longing for, or just another heartbreak waiting to happen? "Can we really do this together?" she whispered, voicing the flickering hope that danced in her chest. His answer hung in the air, heavy with potential. The meeting tonight wasn't just about the bakery, it was about rebuilding a family, a community, and maybe even their bond. With a resolve as warm as her oven, Clara felt her heart stir. If they went into battle together, perhaps they could save Rosewood and themselves. But just as they began to formulate a plan, the door swung open again. A shadow fell across the threshold. It was the wealthy newcomer, confident and smug, likely eager to make his pitch. Clara's pulse quickened. Could they really unite the town against this looming threat? What would Thomas say now? What would she be willing to sacrifice for their legacy? As the bell chimed once more, echoing in her chest, she prepared for what was surely going to be the hardest fight of her life and the unraveling of secrets she wasn't ready to confront. The newcomer stepped into the bakery with an air of confidence that seemed almost palpable. Clara exchanged a quick glance with Thomas, her heart pounding loud enough for both of them to hear. They may have been united in purpose, but doubt still lingered between them like a thick fog. "Good morning, folks," the man said, his voice smooth, dripping with charm. "I'm Mr. Lawrence Prescott, and I'm here to discuss your bakery's future." He flashed a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Clara felt a twinge of apprehension, a sinking feeling in her stomach. "We're not selling," she replied firmly, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. Mr. Prescott raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. "I didn't suggest that, did I? I just happen to have an exciting proposal that would benefit everyone." He leaned on the counter, his gaze sweeping over the bakery's rustic charm. "I see potential here. With the right investment, you could expand, go beyond bread and pies. Think of the possibilities." "Is that so?" Thomas interjected, his earlier cautiousness giving way to a protective tone. "What do you really want?" "Just to help you, my friend," Prescott said, waving his hand dismissively. "Your bakery is a gem, but it needs modernizing. Why not build a new shopping complex right next door? It'll bring in more traffic, and you can attract a whole new clientele. You could both profit handsomely." Clara shuddered at the thought. The bakery had been a family legacy for generations. It was not just a place, it was a part of their very existence. And what about the heart of Rosewood? What about our regulars? Our community? She replied, feeling her voice rise with emotion. Look, I get you're sentimental, Prescott said, his tone condescending. But sentimental won't pay the bills. His words cut deep, yet Clara remained resolute. Her loyalty to the bakery, to her father's dreams, boiled inside her. But alongside that loyalty was a flicker of fear, a question that echoed in her mind: what if he was right? What if staying the same meant losing everything? The tension in the bakery was palpable, patrons shifting uncomfortably, their faces caught in a blend of concern and curiosity. Mrs. Jenkins clutched her cup tighter, her face pale. Clara, maybe a compromise could help us both, Thomas said, his voice barely above a whisper. It was a lifeline thrown in a turbulent sea. But was it a suggestion or betrayal? She met her brother's gaze. She wanted to believe he understood. No? Clara snapped, shaking her head emphatically. Compromise is what got us here. We need to fight for what we have. At that moment, time seemed to freeze, the air thick with tension. Clara realized that she wasn't just battling Mr. Prescott, she was fighting against the fear of losing her past, and perhaps even her future. I'm going to the meeting tonight, she declared, her voice steady, though her heart raced wildly. Thomas's eyes widened in surprise, but she could see the spark of understanding there. We will let the townsfolk decide, and we'll face this together. As her words sunk in, Mr. Prescott held her gaze, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Very well, Clara. But remember, this town is changing. And change comes for everyone, whether they are ready or not. With those words hanging ominously, he turned and left, the door closing behind him with a finality that echoed in Clara's chest. Are you really ready for this? Thomas's voice broke the heavy silence, concern written all over his features. Clara looked around. The weight of the bakery settled onto her shoulders, but alongside it was a newfound strength. We have to be. For both of us. For everyone. She believed in Rosewood. She believed in the bakery. And deep down, she believed in the possibility of mending their fractured bond. As they prepared for the evening's meeting, Clara felt the burden of legacy shift. Yet with that pressure, a determination ignited within her. Would the townsfolk rally behind her? Or would they too be swept up in the tide of change? Only time would tell. She just hoped it wouldn't tear them apart. Again. The stakes had never been higher, and she was ready to discover just how far she was willing to go to protect what was truly hers. But could family ties survive the trial ahead? The sun began to set over Rosewood, casting a warm golden light that filtered through the bakery's windows. Clara stared at the shadows stretching across the familiar wooden floor, each one a reminder of a memory embedded in the very essence of the place. The smell of freshly baked bread hung in the air, filling her heart with both comfort and a sense of foreboding. Are you sure about this? Thomas asked, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt, his gaze darting to the floor before meeting hers. We can't let Mr. Prescott simply decide our fate, Clara replied, determination shaping her features. This isn't just a business to us. It's our home. With the meeting looming, the bakery filled with townsfolk, each individual expressing their own worries and hopes, like a chorus of uncertain birds, Clara took a deep breath, her voice steady as she addressed the gathering crowd. Thank you all for coming. Our bakery is more than just a shop. It's a part of this town, just like each of you. Widow Jenkins, her most loyal customer, nodded, her expression earnest. I wouldn't trade this place for any fancy new store. It's where I met my husband, where my children grew up. Others murmured in agreement, memories sparking like fireflies in the twilight. Clara's heart swelled. Maybe they were all on the same page after all. But fear still nestled in the back of her mind. What if Prescott had a point? Sensing the wavering energy, Clara pressed on. Mr. Prescott wants to change everything about Rosewood, but what we have built together, that matters. It's the stories shared over a cup of coffee, the laughter from kids splattered with flour. It's the community. Just then, a newcomer approached the front of the bakery, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a familiar face. It was Fred, the town's quiet librarian. "I appreciate your passion, Clara, but what about the future? We have to grow. Can't we consider a balance?" The suggestion hung delicately in the air. Clara's stomach twisted into knots. Was this what Thomas had meant by compromise? "But at what cost, Fred?" she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "We risk losing everything we cherish. It scares me to think of that. Change can be scary, but sometimes it's necessary." Fred shrugged, a gentle smile on his face, urging her to see the broader picture. Her heart raced as she glanced toward Thomas. She could see the internal conflict mirrored in his eyes. He wanted to protect their past, yet he also saw the necessity of moving forward. Could he truly understand the weight of her struggle? The room was quiet, the air thick with mixed emotions. She fought back tears that threatened to spill over. "I just want us to remember who we are." Clara's voice broke through the silence, strong despite the tears pooling in her eyes. "I refuse to let some outsider dictate what we should become. We must honor our roots. Please let us stand together." The crowd shifted uneasily, yet she felt a wave of support washing over her. Each familiar face told a story, a moment shared over pastries and coffee, but lurking beneath the surface were doubts. Visions of empty shelves and fading memories cluttered her mind. Could they truly resist Prescott's tempting offers? A murmuring began to ripple through the bakery. Faces illuminated with determination mingled with uncertainty, and Clara could sense the change brewing. "Perhaps we need to explore Prescott's ideas, but on our own terms," Thomas finally spoke, weighing his words carefully. The room went silent again, all focused on Clara. Could she take the leap? In that moment, she realized it wouldn't only be her fight. They were all entwined in this together. "Let us give voice to the heart of Rosewood," Clara declared, her voice ringing clear through the atmosphere thick with tension. "We can navigate both tradition and change." As the crowd erupted into applause, Clara felt a rush of energy. Desires to change and defend sparked a sense of unity. Standing in the flickering candlelight, she took a breath, ready to embrace whatever path lay ahead, but in that moment of hope and uncertainty, one thought terrified her: what if the very community she sought to protect was on the brink of division? Would they weather the storm together, or would they fracture under its weight? The bakery buzzed with a palpable energy, a collective heartbeat united against the looming threat of change. Clara's mind raced as she watched familiar faces filled with hope and apprehension. The applause echoed like a promise, but beneath the smiles, she sensed the cracks, doubts mingling with dreams. "Clara?" Thomas stepped closer, moving out of the shadows cast by the fading light. His brow furrowed, and for a moment, she thought he might voice a different concern. "I believe in what you're saying, but we need to make sure we don't lose sight of practicality. Maybe Fred's onto something." She met his gaze, feeling the weight of his words pin her like a butterfly in a glass case. His expression was gentle, yet firm, and the split between his desire to honor the past and the necessity for progress felt like a chasm widening between them. "Are you saying we should just cave to Prescott?" No, not at all." His voice softened, urgency threading through his words. "What I mean is, when you're building, sometimes you have to lay a new foundation, but it doesn't mean you have to demolish what's already there." Clara's heart thudded, filling her with both resolve and frustration. Why could he not see how those suggestions felt like slow erosion? And what if that new foundation crumbles? What if we change so much that this bakery loses its soul? A fleeting moment passed where they stood in the quiet bustle of their shared world. Their dreams clashed, creating a tension that hummed in the air, waiting for resolution. "What will Mr. Prescott want from us?" A voice broke through the silence. It was Ruth, the baker's assistant who had always supported Clara. "If we take his offer, what do we give up?" "Exactly. We can't let this become a game of compromise that costs us everything," Clara affirmed, searching for the resolve in their eyes, hoping to lift them like a gust of wind. "We can adapt without losing ourselves. We have to show him we have value." As she spoke, an idea began to take shape, illuminating her thoughts like the glow of the flickering candles. What if we create something new, but still hold on to the old? We could host community events, a bake-off, open MIC nights, cooking classes. Get the town involved in a new way while keeping our traditions alive. The crowd reacted, murmurs of interest rippling through the gathered townsfolk. Clara felt the shift as if she had cast a net, drawing them closer together. She could see the glimmers of excitement sparking in their eyes, igniting a shared vision where preservation entwined with growth. Maybe that's it, Thomas offered, his voice trembling with newfound warmth. A blend of old and new. We can make this work. Clara shouted, feeling the surge of hope energizing her spirit. We can present Mr. Prescott with a proposal. Something he can't overlook, a vision of what Rosewood truly stands for. The applause grew louder, excitement swelling throughout the bakery. Clara's heart raced, the path was becoming clear. Yet as the cheers surrounded her, doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. Would they have the resources? Could they unite from this momentum? As she looked around, she saw the people she loved, each face a mirror reflecting her passion and uncertainty, bound together in shared hopes. But beneath it all, a whisper taunted her, what if this newfound unity crumbled when faced with real opposition? As the evening gathered the last rays of daylight, Clara knew they stood at the edge of something monumental. Let us plan, she declared, her voice rising above the chatter, let us create a future for Rosewood together. A future no one can take from us. The answer hung in the air, yet simultaneously, a question loomed larger than it ever had before, would that future be enough to safeguard their cherished bakery? With the sun dipping low, the shadows deepened, and Clara felt each heartbeat pulse with determination. But a flicker of fear remained. Would they be able to unite against Prescott's looming threat, or would they find themselves scattered in the winds of change? The bakery was a hive of activity, the air thick with anticipation and the sweet scent of butter and sugar. Clara watched as the enthusiasm swirled around her like a warm embrace. Yet, amidst the excitement, shadows of doubt lingered in her heart. Clara, what do we need to do next? Ruth asked, her wide eyes filled with both eagerness and worry. We keep up this energy. We gather ideas, we craft a solid proposal for Prescott, Clara replied, her voice steady, though her mind raced ahead. We have to show him how our community can thrive, not just survive. Thomas leaned in again, his brow still knitted, the tension in the air wrapping around them like thick fog. But what if he doesn't see our worth? We'll need more than just good ideas, we need results. Clara nodded slowly. Thomas's question gnawed at her, pushing against the walls she had built to defend her vision. Then we bring the community to Prescott. If he sees what we can create together, he'll have to listen. With renewed energy, she began to pencil down ideas on an old napkin. A bake-off competition featuring local recipes. Evening classes for everyone from kids to seniors teaching the art of baking. Open MIC nights where stories could be shared over cups of hot cocoa and fresh pastries. Each scribbled word filled her with hope, yet the spectre of failure loomed. As the night wore on, the bakery buzzed with brainstorming ideas, voices rising and falling like a harmonious song. Clara stood back, awestruck at their unity. Each person had something to offer, and they were flooding her with creativity, building the framework of a future that could bring salvation to the bakery. But just as things seemed promising, Clara caught sight of Fred, lurking in the corner with a skeptical frown etched across his face. His arms were crossed defiantly against his chest, his voice breaking through the warmth of the moment. What happens when Prescott's new foundation isn't what we want at all? Maybe he'll have us scrapping traditions, too. Look at what he did to Pine Valley Cafe. The room went silent, the flicker of belief dimmed slightly by his words. Clara's heart sank. She could feel the hesitation creeping back in. Would they truly be able to hold on to their values amidst Prescott's vision? Fred, you might be right, she said, her own voice wavering. But letting him dictate our future isn't an option. We can adapt without losing who we are. The hum of whispers revived. Clara took a step toward Fred, sensing the weight of his perspective. What if we invited Prescott to one of our events? Let him see the passion and history in every loaf and pastry. If he feels our community's heartbeat, he might care enough to negotiate. Reluctantly, Fred nodded, his arms slowly uncrossing. The fear that had settled in their hearts seemed to shift again, and the chatter resumed, fueled by Clara's spark. They began to bounce ideas off each other, rekindling their shared vision. As Clara watched them engage, her heart swelled at the sight of resilience. She thought about what they were fighting for: the bakery, the community, the life they had built together. But just as she began to breathe easier, a thought struck her with icy clarity. If they could capture Prescott's interest, would the cost still be too high? What freedoms would they surrender in a fight for survival? With her pulse quickening, she turned back to the group, bracing herself. Okay everyone, let's focus. What is our next step? How do we present this to Prescott in a way that he can't ignore? As they rallied once more around Clara, excitement etched on their faces, she felt a flicker of fear take root again. What would Prescott truly demand in return for his approval? The room vibrated with the chatter of hope, but beneath it all, an unspoken tension coiled tighter, the exhilarating drive to create, intertwined with the chilling realization of potential sacrifice. In that moment, she realized they might be heading into uncharted territory. Would their voices be powerful enough against Prescott's looming influence? The answer slipped. Just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet dangerously uncertain. The next morning, the bakery felt different. Clara opened the doors, and a chill gust of wind swept through, sending the scent of cinnamon and coffee swirling. It hung in the air like a promise, one that was just out of reach. Ruth was the first to arrive, her cheeks flushed with excitement and apprehension. Can you believe we're actually doing this? Inviting Prescott? She asked, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her apron. Clara smiled, but the weight of the decision hung heavy on her chest. We're giving ourselves a chance to be seen, Ruth. That's what matters. Thomas arrived next, carrying a box of freshly baked muffins. Thought these might impress him, he said with an uncertain grin. Homemade blueberry best in town. But, what if he doesn't like them? We need to focus on what we love, not on what he might think. Clara's resolve briefly flickered under the weight of doubt, but she quickly steadied. Let us stick to what makes us who we are. As if on cue, the rest of the team began trickling in. Each face reflected a mix of hope and anxiety, the stakes weighing down the usual morning camaraderie. They huddled around the worn wooden tables, Clara at the forefront, crafting a plan that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Let us set the date for next Saturday, Clara declared, her voice firm. We'll have a small event in the courtyard. Everyone brings their favorite recipes, and we showcase the history of our bakery. Fred's brows furrowed once again, but the fear in his eyes was now mingled with an undercurrent of determination. That could work, but we need to make it clear. This isn't just about the food. It's about tradition, our story's the heart of this community. Prescott needs to see that. Clara nodded, her heart racing at the prospect. Words bubbled up within her, each one tinged with a mix of vulnerability and strength. Let us share our stories too. Each dish has a story, a memory. We can even invite some of the older customers to share theirs. As the ideas rolled in, a collective warmth spread through the bakery, drowning out the cold uncertainty that had crept in the night before. The room buzzed with laughter and memories as they planned how to arrange the tables, decorate with flowers from local gardens, and even how to invite the surrounding community. The rhythm of creation united them like a warm blanket against the world outside, yet, even as laughter filled the air, the pressure of the upcoming meeting with Prescott lingered in the background, a ghost that refused to be ignored. Clara's stomach churned with anxiety at the thought of the looming confrontation, the risk that came with every excited plan they put together. Later that evening, as Clara prepared to close up shop, she stood alone for a moment, looking around the bakery. There was something powerful in the shadows cast by the soft glow of the setting sun. This was her life's work, and now it felt like their hopes were resting on her shoulders. What if we fail? The thought crept in, a whisper full of dread. She took a deep breath, pushing the fear aside. But what if we succeed? The question echoed louder, revitalizing her spirit. She reached for her phone, scrolling through the contacts until she found Prescott's number. As she tapped the screen, her heart raced. She needed to invite him, to lay it all out there, but could she put their dreams in his hands? Just then, the bell above the door jingled, and Clara spun around. Fred was back, a determined look on his face. "Clara," he said, his voice low but steady. "We can do this together, right?" Clara's heart swelled at his support, at the solidarity they were building amongst themselves. "Yes, together," she replied, the weight of doubt lifting just slightly. They stood side by side, ready to face whatever tide washed in next. As Clara pressed send, the invitation to Prescott floated into the ether, its outcome uncertain. Would it ignite a spark of understanding, or lead to surrendering the very foundation of their beloved bakery? The anticipation hung in the air, electric and charged, heavy with possibility. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, draping the bakery in twilight. She had thrown out a lifeline, but would it be enough to pull them through the storm that was sure to come? In that moment, Clara knew this was only the beginning. How far would they go to protect what they loved? The door swung wide open, and Clara stood ready to step into a new chapter, one where everything could change in an instant. Clara woke up with the sun filtering through her window, casting cheerful patterns on the walls. Yet, as she sipped her coffee, her heart felt heavy. The invitation to Prescott lingered in her mind like a thick fog, obscuring her hopes. Would he see the bakery for what it truly was, or just as another business to exploit? The bakery buzzed with a different energy that Saturday morning. The team was in high gear, preparing for the event that had the potential to change everything. Ruth was arranging flowers, her laughter bubbling over like fresh whipped cream, but Clara noticed a nervous twitch in her fingers. "It's beautiful, right?" Ruth asked, adjusting a vase. Clara nodded, forcing a smile as her mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong. Fred entered with a platter of pastries, looking even more determined. "I've been tweaking the recipes all week, just in case he tries to critique us," he said. Clara appreciated the effort but felt a slight twinge at the pressure that came with Prescott. They needed support, not judgment. As the morning wore on, customers began to arrive, filling the shop with the warm scent of freshly baked bread and the sound of shared stories. Clara watched as families gathered around tables, laughter mingling with the aroma of coffee. It felt good, reminding her of why they were fighting so hard to hold on to this place. She caught a glimpse of Mrs. Delaney, an elderly neighbor who had been visiting the bakery since it opened. Mrs. Delaney's eyes sparkled as she shared a story about how she used to bake pies with her mother in the very spot they now stood. "This bakery is home," she said, squeezing Clara's hand. Clara's heart ached with warmth. How could they risk losing this connection? As the minutes passed, the courtyard began to fill with friends and new faces, eager to share their culinary treasures. Thomas had set up a quaint display of muffins, their chemistries weaving a delicious tale of flavors. Yet, each chime of the doorbell tightened Clara's chest. Was Prescott on his way? When the moment finally came, the door swung open with an almost ominous creak. Prescott strolled in, confidence radiating from him like an unwelcome gust of wind. Clara caught a glimpse of his polished shoes, which stood in stark contrast to the flour-dusted floor they so cherished. He scanned the room, an air of disinterest sweeping across his face as he approached. "Nice spread," he said, voice dripping with calculated charm. But the way his eyes flickered over the pastries felt more like scanning inventory than savoring flavors. "Thank you," Clara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We wanted to share the heart of our bakery with the community." "Interesting approach," he noted dismissively. "Let us see if it translates to numbers." His words cut deeper than she expected. Clara pushed back a wave of disappointment. They weren't about the numbers, they were about people, memories, love. But how to show that to someone who measured everything in spreadsheets and evaluations? With courage swelling in her chest, Clara stepped forward, her resolve shining through the uncertainty. "These recipes come with stories. Each pastry is a memory, a life lived in this community." As she spoke, the room quieted, the bustling energy replaced by a shared understanding of what they were all fighting for. Hearts were open, ready to listen. And maybe, just maybe, Prescott would listen too, but then, instead of admiration or curiosity, she glimpsed a hint of skepticism in his heartless gaze. His presence felt like a looming shadow, threatening to snuff out the light she had worked so hard to create. Just as she opened her mouth to invite him deeper into their world, the door swung open again, this time with a blast of warm spring air. A group of familiar faces stepped in, the very elders Clara had hoped to share stories with. They smiled and shuffled toward the front, ready to narrate memories too precious to fade. Clara's heart raced as she caught Fred's eye, and a silent agreement passed between them. They had to make Prescott understand, to show him the lifeblood of their bakery. But could they bridge the gap between hard numbers and warm stories? As the elders began to speak, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite. Maybe this was the moment that could shift Prescott's perspective. Would their stories resonate with him, or was he too set in his corporate ways? The room held its breath, waiting for the moment when everything could change. As the first elder stepped forward, Clara could feel the tension rise. Mr. Jensen, with his soft, shaky hands, cleared his throat and began. I remember when this bakery opened. The smell of fresh bread was a welcome change in our quiet neighborhood. His voice trembled, but it carried the weight of years filled with memories. Clara's heart swelled as she watched the others lean in, their faces lit by warm nostalgia. Mr. Jensen continued, his words wrapped in a heartfelt sincerity that shifted the atmosphere. I used to bring my kids here for weekend treats. We'd sit at that table by the window, and Clara's muffins brought laughter and conversations to life. He pointed to the very table, and Clara found herself smiling back at him. She caught a glimpse of Prescott's expression, and her breath hitched. He was still, expressionless, but something flickered behind his eyes, though it was impossible to tell what. Clara couldn't afford to lose this moment. She stepped up beside Mr. Jensen, her heart racing. Every pastry has a story, she said, her voice trembling. They aren't just profits or losses. They are the memories woven together by our community, our lives. She gestured to the growing crowd, friends and family now united in their mission of showing Prescott the spirit of their bakery. Mrs. Delaney shuffled forward, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight. When I lost my husband, this place became my refuge. I found friends here, comfort in muffins and cake. The bakery brought life back when it felt like the light had dimmed. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and Clara felt them welling in her own. Fred moved beside Clara, silently anchoring her, strength radiating from his presence. The air was thick with emotion, every person's history echoing in their shared smiles and nods. Prescott remained stoic, but Clara dared to hope. Surely he had to feel something. Yet, as the stories unfolded, from childhood memories to love stories forged over shared pastries, the flicker of interest in Prescott's gaze didn't evolve into understanding. Instead, it felt like wrapping a gift only to have it returned without appreciation. Clara's heart sank just when it seemed that the warmth in the room could melt the cold edge of Prescott's demeanor. Commotion arose near the entrance. A child, about 6 or 7, burst in, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. His eyes were wide, excitement spilling over. Miss Clara! Miss Clara! Look! He bounded to the front with the energy of spring itself, holding up the paper for all to see. I baked this for you. The bakery fell silent as Clara knelt down, her heart clenching at the sight of his proud smile. The paper was a crude drawing of the bakery bursting with laughter and joy, each person drawn lovingly in their own colorful pastel hues. I got my mom's recipe right? He squealed, and a rush of warmth washed over Clara. Seeing the pure joy of the boy, Clara felt hope reigniting. That's magnificent, Sam! She exclaimed, her smile brightening the dimming lights. Her eyes found Prescott's, searching for a reaction, for something that showed he understood the power of joy and connection, but Prescott's lips remained pressed together. The moment hung heavy, uncertain, and Clara's spirits began to dip just as they had surged. Would this single drawing sway someone who saw only numbers? Could this child's love for baking so genuine, so true touch the hardened heart of a businessman? Clara's hope wavered. And as she wondered what it would take to crack Prescott's steely exterior, the door swung open again, and an unexpected guest stepped in. Clara's breath caught in her throat. It was someone from her past, a key figure who could either make or break everything they had fought for. Would their return shift the balance in this delicate moment? Would it be the answer Clara desperately needed? As Clara stared, the familiar figure slowly emerged from the shadows. Henry, her father's old friend and mentor, stepped into the bakery with a presence that felt like a warm hug from the past. The crowd fell silent as he surveyed the gathering, his eyes landing on Clara. A steady smile broke across his weathered face, one that spoke of understanding and wisdom earned through years of experience. "Clara!" he exclaimed, his voice carrying the weight of history. "I heard about what's been happening. I couldn't miss this." Clara's heart surged with a rush of relief and hope. Henry had always believed in the power of community, and his calm demeanor was the reassurance she desperately needed. "Henry!" she called, her voice warm and inviting. "I could use your help today." He nodded, stepping forward with an air of authority that commanded attention. "Everyone, I know how much this bakery means to all of you. I've watched it grow from the very beginning." He paused for effect as all eyes turned to him, waiting for the words that could tip the scales. "But the heart of this place isn't just in its recipes, it's in the people's stories, laughter, love." His words resonated like music within the walls, echoing the sentiments Clara had shared earlier. Suddenly, he turned his gaze to Prescott, eyes sharp and assessing. "Now, I'm not here to tell anyone how to run their business, Mr. Prescott. But I believe in the spirit of a community like this. It can't be measured in profit margins alone." Clara held her breath, her pulse quickening. Would Prescott feel the weight of Henry's experience? Would he understand what it meant to fight for something that couldn't be quantified? "I've seen businesses come and go. Some are built upon the dreams of people who are willing to sacrifice their heart for the sake of commerce. I implore you to see beyond the spreadsheets," Henry urged, his voice unwavering. "This town doesn't just need a bakery, it needs a home where laughter lives." Prescott's eyelids narrowed slightly, but the smirk from earlier faded away. Clara could sense a shift, a flickering ember of curiosity igniting in the businessman's demeanor. Perhaps Henry, a man of convictions, could plant a seed of doubt in Prescott's unwavering confidence. Think about the legacy that Clara represents. This place is steeped in tradition, where families grow together. Henry turned back to the crowd. "And that's something worth fighting for." Inspired, Clara stepped forward. "Mr. Prescott, what if we showed you that blending the past with innovation doesn't have to mean sacrificing art for commerce?" The room buzzed with anticipation. Clara continued, her voice steady as she laid out her vision. "We can host community events, involve local artisans in our meals, and connect with neighboring businesses to bring fresh ideas to life, all while honoring the heart of our bakery." A murmur of agreement rolled through the crowd, each person visibly lighting up with hope. Clara's heart soared at the sight of it, people coming together, envisioning a collective future. The air shifted as Prescott shifted his weight. "These events you mentioned, they could diversify your income, yes?" He paused, an eyebrow raised as if he were weighing the potential revenues, as if he still operated a profit and loss graph. "Precisely. But not just for profit's sake," Clara insisted, her voice rising above the chatter, full of conviction. "This is about crafting a community experience. It's about joy. Memories are richer than any number can quantify." Henry nodded approvingly, and Clara found strength in his presence. The crowd erupted into a chorus of supportive murmurs, ideas converging and coalescing, creating a symphony of creativity. As Clara and the group painted a vivid picture of what the future could hold, a flicker of something in Prescott's expression softened. Perhaps, just perhaps, they were breaking through the wall he had built around himself. Minutes later, Clara found a moment to breathe, a swell of gratitude filling the air. Everyone was fighting for the same mission, the heart and soul of Rosewood. She caught a glimpse of Thomas, witnessing this transformation take place. His eyes held understanding and unity. They were in this together, no matter the outcome. As the conversations flowed, Prescott seemed increasingly engaged. The more the townsfolk shared their ideas, memories, and dreams, the more his demeanor shifted from skepticism to contemplation. Clara could see him considering the weight of their words, the heart behind the pastries. "All right, let's say I'm willing to entertain this idea," Prescott finally spoke, the steel in his tone feeling less oppressive. "How do you propose we measure success in a way that benefits both the community and the business?" Clara's heart pounded fiercely in her chest the moment they fought for had arrived. We establish clear benchmarks, but we also set qualitative goals. Events will build community pride, which will amplify our brand loyalty. People will feel valued, and in turn, they will want to support their local bakery. Henry stepped in again. This isn't just about numbers, it's about creating an experience. If Prescott sees real engagement through events, he should find it profitable, even if the numbers are not immediately evident. A silence fell in the room, and Clara breathed deeply as she saw the gears turning in Prescott's mind. Hope flickered like candlelight, illuminating the darkness of fear that had gripped her for so long. It wasn't just a business deal, it was about communities thriving in unison. Finally, Prescott leaned back, the slightest smirk ghosting across his mouth. Let us explore this vision further then, shall we? I like a challenge. Cheers erupted around Clara, enveloping her in a whirlwind of victory and relief. They had taken a significant step towards preserving the legacy of their bakery, a place built on love and connection. As the gathering carried on into the evening, Clara felt an empowered lightness in her heart. Bonds forged through trials and triumphs had aligned them, and the bakery her father's dream would indeed live on, growing and reshaping with every new day. Clara turned to Thomas and Henry, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Thank you for being part of this. With renewed hope glowing in their eyes and the community's spirit soaring high, she felt a sense of resolve. Together, they would weather any storm and transform their bakery into not just a store, but a home, a true reflection of the beauty that lay in their intertwined lives. And in that moment, she knew they had not just fought for a bakery, they had fought for the essence of Rosewood itself, a place of laughter, love, and endless memories, ever fresh, just like their beloved pastries. This was just the beginning. The whole town felt renewed, ready to take on whatever came next. Clara smiled, warmed by the triumph they had achieved together. Now, with the journey ahead promising more adventures, she couldn't have felt more hopeful than she did at that moment. After all, they had conquered uncertainty with love, and love would always prevail. Don't wait not even one more second. Subscribe now to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it really helps. And please, comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Only true fans understand how vital it is to support the channel through these actions.